Contrary to the blather we hear about the unique goodness of the American citizen, or our religious heritage, or anything else, the one thing that set this country apart from all others is the Bill of Rights. This is a quote by Harry Brown, who is an American writer, politician, and investment analysis. In an article published August 2012, written by Dr. Howard Peace, he states that when building a house, if the foundation is off or ignored, then the rest of the house will be built unsteady and some pieces won't fall into place. He says the same goes for the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, which are our base foundation for any laws to be ratified. Currently, politicians blatantly disregard the people of this country's rights and our Constitution. Today I'll be talking about how the Constitution gives us certain rights like privacy, the First Amendment, Second Amendment, the Fourth Amendment, the Fifth Amendment, Sixth Amendment, and habeas corpus, and how these are all violated by laws and government programs. By the end of this speech, I want everyone to see why we should cherish rights given to us by the Constitution. We are all citizens of a republic born with certain rights that no laws or agency should ever violate. The Bill of Rights combines several amendments to give the average American citizen the right to privacy. In an article published February 2012, written by Washington Blog, it states that Senator Frank Church, who is famous for being on a church committee against the FBI, or the unlawful FBI COINTEL program, stated all the way back in 1975 that the National Security Agency, or the NSA, capabilities would eventually turn on American citizens, and this would eventually give us no right to privacy. Today, his predictions have come true when the NSA tapped virtually all phone calls, tracked all purchases, all internet activities, even emails, and stored them permanently. Some people would take the stance of, I'll give up some of my privacy to make sure that I and people of this country are secure. But Benjamin Franklin, who is one of our founding fathers, says that a citizen who would give up some freedom or privacy in turn for some security will obtain or do they deserve neither. Also, the former head of the NSA, William Binney, who resigned from the NSA in October 2001 and still speaks out about the wrongs of the NSA, said that we're this close to becoming a totalitarian state. On top of this, the NSA is a black program, meaning that most of their happenings are classified, and how much money they cost American taxpayers is also classified. So they'll use billions of our dollars to spy on us and won't tell us how many billions, and also mostly what they use it for. While it is a sad realization to find out that our right to privacy is violated on a daily, laws that violate rights are no better. A ban on weapons to solve the issue of violence is not the way to go in our country. A free people ought not only be armed and disciplined, but should have sufficient arms and ammunition to maintain a status of independence against anyone who might attempt to abuse them, this which would include their own government. This is a quote by our first president, George Washington. In an article published June 2012, written by David Coppell, he states that in 1774, Great Britain banned the import of rifles to the colonies. In 1775, they came to the colonies to try and confiscate the remainder of the rifles. 1776 was the Revolution. Leaders in the colonies felt that the ban of rifles was the last straw. They had already spoken out about wrongs done on the colonies by Great Britain, like overtaxation, and they felt that having a weapon was your last resort against a corrupt government. Switzerland, who is a nation that teaches the discipline of weapons, and when every citizen becomes of age, shows them how to use weapons, has the least amount of gun violence of any civilized nation in the world. This is not a coincidence. Our nation just happens to be the third worldwide in homicide, but if you take out Chicago, Detroit, Washington, D.C., and New Orleans, we then become fourth from the bottom. These four cities just happen to have the strictest gun laws as well. A ban on guns doesn't stop criminals from using weapons because they're criminals. They're committing criminal acts anyways. So they're not thinking about how the guns they are using are illegal. It just takes power from the average law-abiding citizen. This in turn gives criminals more incentive to commit crimes. A ban on guns against our Second Amendment is as pointless as this next set of laws. The National Defense Authorization Act, or the NDAA, impedes the rights of citizens, which are rights or liberties that we are born with in this country. In an article published December 2013, written by Dr. Harold Peace, he states that the passing of this law is the most dangerous in U.S. history. Dr. Peace is an expert on the U.S. Constitution and has dedicated his career to connecting it, the Bill of Rights, and the ideologies of our founding fathers to current events in our country today. He is a history professor and a political science professor at Taft College and has been for the last 25 years. Under this law, an American-born citizen can have their home searched without their knowledge, can be arrested, detained, kidnapped, and held indefinitely with no right to trial, and all under the authority of the president if labeled a terrorist. The problem with the policy is that the way they use the term president, terrorist, is used so loosely that one can be labeled a terrorist for a number of reasons. One example would be if a person or a group of persons were to protest against a politician, telling him that they won't vote him in office again if he doesn't meet their requirements or needs as a people. Imagine me being secretly detained and sent off to Guantanamo Bay without the acknowledgement or anyone telling my loved ones that this has happened to me for giving this speech. It is possible according to this law. Dr. Howard's piece uses an example of what the reason how one can be labeled as a terrorist by the NDAA is defending the Constitution, which is exactly what I'm doing in this speech right now. While I do feel it is unlikely that I'll be kidnapped for giving this speech, I like to think about future persons or future groups of people who will speak out against unjust laws or unjust politicians that this law can be used against. Certainly, if anyone in this country has committed any ills that are a citizen, this can be proved in a court of law. I feel this is what makes our country great. We are innocent until proven guilty. In the end, these laws that violate rights don't solve our problems. They just abuse our liberties. And these are liberties that are set by foundations that help us combat a corrupt government, past, future, and present. Our founding fathers gave us these liberties to make sure that our government is in the best interest of the people. And these laws were written, of course, after they themselves had conquered a corrupt leaders of the colonies as Great Britain. And I feel all citizens should speak out against any laws that are passed against their rights. Thank you.